This video clip is in continuation with my previous one, in which I said why I chose physiology as a subject to start with. And I told physiology is the study of normal functions. And I ended with a note that we will see something about homeostasis. You will come across various new words, new terminologies in this video, but don't worry about this. All these new words will be new only now. Once you start reading, nothing will be new. You take a small paper and write down all the new words in this video clip. Have a medical dictionary and see the meaning of these words once or twice. Then naturally you will get the acquaintance of the words, a knowledge about these new words and new terminologies. After all, these are all medical terminologies. Definitely, to start with, everything will be new. And in that case, this will also be new, but we will learn it slowly. And before starting this homeostasis, let me take you as an example and talk something about you. You are in a classroom and there are a lot of students with you. Some staff is taking a class. This classroom, outside the classroom, around you, all these things, you call it a surrounding atmosphere or you call it environment. So this is outside your body. So I say this is a external environment to you. There is an internal environment which is nothing but inside your body. So now we use this word environment. What is actually environment? To you, except yourself, everything around you is your environment. The classroom, your neighbors, students with you, the objects, the climate, the lighting, everything is your environment. Now consider your environment. Take for example, this is a summer season. So your environment is now hot. What you do is, during this season, you will try to wear a cotton cloth. You will try to open all the windows and doors. You will try to switch on the fan and you may have sweating. So you will try to take more water and you will try to keep distance from your neighbors so that you will have a good ventilation, etc. If you are not doing all those things, you will become tired, you get exhausted, and in fact, you lose interest in listening the class. Listening is your work, and taking a class is a work of the staff. Both of you, unless the surrounding is good, ideal, the staff may not take class without tiredness, and you may feel tired because of this hot environment around you. Opposite in winter, you will try to have heavy cloth and you will try to close all the windows and doors. You will switch on a heater if it is there and you will try to keep your arms and legs very close so that the temperature around you or the coldness, you want to avoid the excess cold so that you can listen the class. Something to make the classroom, the environment of the classroom, ideal for listening a class. Look at these animals. What nature has done for these animals. Two goats living in different places. One in a polar area, where the climate is very cold. The other one is in a hot climate. If you see the polar goat, it has a lot of fur. The purpose of this extra fur for this animal is exposed to heavy cold climate. So this animal should not lose heat. So fur becomes a protection, like a woolen cloth for you, so that it can survive in that cold environment or atmosphere. If you take the other animal, it is in a hot climate. The inside of this body also gets very hot. So this animal wants to lose heat, so it doesn't have fur like the other animal. So this is an accommodation, an adjustment, a biological adjustment. Imagine these two animals. If they change their places, what will happen? The animal which was in the polar area will lose the fur, and this animal which is there in the tropical area or hot climate will gain the fur. Nature also helps in the survival of these animals. So this is a very good example how even animals, they need a good outside as well as inside environment so that they can live, their organs can function well. So taking this an example, just now coming to our body, like the classroom, you have inside the body, the organs are there. For example, in the abdominal cavity, you have liver, the stomach, and of course you have the pancreas. All these organs are there. In the chest cavity, you have the heart, lungs, etc. The whole cavities are like your classrooms. So whenever there is a change in the climate outside, you are doing some adjustments like that. Whenever there is a change in the surrounding area of these organs, which we call it the internal environment, these organs also make some compensatory activities. They need a good environment because remember one thing, even when you are taking rest, the organs are working. When you sleep, the organs do not sleep. They work. The lungs are breathing. The heart is pumping. The kidney is forming urine. So that means they need a continuous dynamic environment, ideal environment for their normal functioning so that they can do their function, that is physiology, the physiological function. We talked something about the temperature. Like temperature, there are various factors. There are various parameters. They should be maintained or balanced. There should not be any deviation or any abnormality. So whenever there is a deviation or any change in the internal environment, the organs cannot do their work. So what they do, they try to bring back to the normal level the internal environment. In this process, many organs do some extra work to bring back to normal level. This extra work, you call it compensatory activities. The purpose of this compensatory activities is to maintain an internal equilibrium or internal balance. And as I said, this is called the homeostasis. We talked about the climate, we talked about the temperature. And apart from that, remember, the organs also need food. They get food in the form of glucose. They convert them into energy. So for their survival, they need glucose. So this glucose level, you call it blood sugar level, that level should also be maintained at a particular value or particular level so that the organs can use this glucose for their functioning or for their survival. Whenever there is a change in this internal environment, if the imbalance continues, the organs cannot do their work, physiological normal function. Now you get a disease. So we have seen only one parameter, temperature. So what are the other parameters involved or the factors involved in this that should be constant or with little acceptable deviations, and how their values are maintained. These numbers are maintained. And what are the compensatory mechanism, and which organs are involved in maintaining this equilibrium or in bringing back the homeostasis is called the study of homeostasis. Let me enumerate some of the factors which are involved. pH is such one factor. Temperature is another factor. Blood sugar, blood pressure, blood oxygen level, water level, quantity of water, electrolyte level. These are all a few factors or few parameters to know. pH, when I say pH, a neutral pH is 7. The blood pH is around 7.4 towards a bit alkalinity. If it is less than 7, the body goes to a state of acidosis. More than 7.4, it goes for alkalosis. So it should be maintained around 7.4. For that, there are many substances circulating in our body. They are called buffering agents or buffers. Next is temperature. We have told the core temperature or the normal temperature inside our body is 37 degrees Celsius, 98.6 degree Fahrenheit. If the temperature falls below certain level, you call it hypothermia. If the temperature increases, either you call it fever or pyrexia. Pyrexia is a medical term for fever. If the temperature continues to rise, you call it hyperpyrexia. If it further increases, the person will go for a heat stroke or a sunstroke, which is nothing but a severe dehydration and death. The next parameter is blood sugar. I told you blood glucose or blood sugar level should be maintained for the survival of the organs and the tissues and the cells. All these organs and tissues and cells, they need glucose. They need glucose for their survival. They need energy because they are working. For that, they need glucose level. If the glucose level goes down in the blood, you call it hypoglycemia. If the glucose level goes up, it is called hyperglycemia. We will talk in detail when we talk about the examples for these factors. Oxygen level. You know very well the blood carries oxygen to various organs, and every organ needs adequate oxygen supply. The oxygen is dissolved in the blood, and you measure this oxygen saturation. The oxygen saturation is measured with a small device called pulse oximeter, and it should be more than 95%. If it is 100%, perfect. So the organs will receive enough oxygen supply for their survival. Next is blood pressure. Blood pressure is measured in millimeter of mercury. You have two numbers, 120 millimeter of mercury and 80 millimeter of mercury. 120 millimeter of mercury, you call it systolic pressure. 80 millimeter of mercury, you call it diastolic pressure. 120 millimeter, the systolic pressure is nothing but the pressure you measure during the contraction of the heart or pumping or ejection. The blood is ejected, and when the blood is coming out from the heart into the blood vessel, you measure the pressure. That is called systolic pressure, that is 120 millimeter of mercury. When the heart expands or relaxes or dilates to receive the blood, at that time if you measure the pressure, it should be around 80 millimeter of mercury. If the level is less, you call it hypotension. If the level is more, you call it hypertension. 120 by 80 millimeter of mercury plus or minus 10 millimeter of mercury is acceptable, this deviation. But if the low blood pressure is sustained, because of the low pressure, the organs may not get enough blood supply. They may not work. They may die because blood, they need oxygen, nutrients, everything is in the blood. They take this from the blood, so they may die, fail to do their work. If the blood pressure is very high, what happens? The extra pressure exerted on the organs, on the cells, will prevent the organs functioning normally. They will produce a lot of changes in the blood vessels. Because these changes in the blood vessels, that will affect the function of the organ. So extra pressure is also not good. Low pressure is also not good. Next, I told water. Everybody says take 8 tumbler of water, 2 liters of water and all. The body knows how much of water to keep and how much to get out. Whatever extra water you take, it is excreted as urine. You will pass more urine. The kidney will do the function, because if there is extra water inside, the blood volume will increase. If the blood volume will increase, the heart may find it difficult because it needs to work more. The workload given to the heart because of this extra circulating volume is very high. The heart will. If the amount of water is more, the kidney will work more and that will excrete the water outside. So this is also a compensatory activities which is going on. And the sodium level, potassium level, all this will affect the performance of the heart. Or if the sodium is very high, it will retain water. Again, water overload or water intoxication. Remember these numbers, what are I told? pH 7.4, temperature 37 degrees Celsius, blood sugar around 100 to 140, oxygen level 95, 100, blood pressure 120 millimeter, 80 millimeter of mercury. All these are numbers, mere numbers, but they play a crucial role in maintaining the internal equilibrium balance. And all these numbers, they should remain constant, of course, within an acceptable deviation from these normal numbers. With this basic information, we have seen all the factors, some of the factors, I won't say all the factors, some of the factors. We cannot explain everything here. I will take 2 examples. What are their normal values? What will happen if there is an alteration in the value? How these values are kept constant? And what are the compensatory mechanisms involved in maintaining these particular values within the body? We'll see. Those 2 factors are, one is temperature, second is blood sugar or blood glucose level. The normal temperature I told 37 degrees centigrade or 98.6 degree Fahrenheit, and maintaining this level, you call it regulation of temperature. Otherwise it is called thermoregulation. Blood sugar, if you take during fasting, 8 hours fasting, it should be less than 100. After a heavy meal, it should be less than 140. So I have taken temperature and blood sugar or blood glucose level. And why I have chosen these 2 levels or 2 parameters, you will understand why I have chosen these 2 parameters. And remember, all these variations in number, disturbances in this number, changes in this are not caused by any organism, but the values are not in an order. That is why I say these are all disorders actually. So the compensatory mechanism is nothing but the body tries to keep them in order. So compensatory mechanism or homeostasis is nothing but they prevent the disorder of these values and they bring back to the order. And if these disorders continue, the normal functions, the physiology is disturbed. So you get a disease. Now we will see these 2 parameters, temperature and blood glucose or blood sugar level.